Thank you for your service. You know, I thought about serving one time, or I didn't serve. And I'm like, look, stop. Stop telling me, don't put a guilt trip on me because you didn't serve. So my question back to everybody, and this is being, trying to be nice because I try to be, polite with everybody, that my question back to you is then, okay, that's okay that you didn't. Maybe that's not in your fiber. Maybe that's not in your DNA. Maybe that's not in your makeup. And that's fine. So now the big question is, how do you serve? What was very interesting was I think Montez Clark talked about, he said, how many are retired? Because he was trying to get a rise out of everybody here, right? So he finally said, how many are retired? A lot more arms went up. Well, let me tell you, folks, you're not retired. If you're living in the United States of America today, you cannot retire. You cannot retire. You do not have a choice. You can sit down here in beautiful Florida, which is where we decided to make our residence. But I'm just telling you that we don't have a choice right now. This country, this is not politics as usual. We cannot sit and say, I'm going to let the younger generation do it. Or I'm going to let the politicians do it. Or I'm going to let those people do it. We don't have that choice anymore. This country is in a period of crisis like we have never been in. Like we have never been in this country. Why? Because all the other crises that we faced in this country, with one exception, and that was the Civil War, when the country was clearly split at a time, and there was a South and there was a North, and there was a set of reasons why they went after each other. So that was the time, not when a part of the country was going to change away from the Constitution. One part did want to change away from the Constitution. But it was a very clear split. Right now, it's very unclear. It's very unclear. So we're not in a precedented time. We're not in a time where we can go, well, this is like the American Revolution, and so let's get back to the Constitution. Or like World War II. Most of everything else we've always done in this country, it's always over there. Okay? And at the time of the Civil War, by one vote only, that war continued. That war continued by one vote. Halfway through that war, because they were going to decide, we'll give up. So there was a period of time in this country where we felt a need to really believe in something, in a vision that was greater than the people that existed at the time. Really, they saw something in us. They talked about it in their papers, they talked about it in their writings, they talked about it to each other, but they were actually speaking to us today. So when you hear these quotes up here by different forefathers or founding fathers, and you hear about all these different things that they thought about, they did. And they knew the enemy. They knew the enemy, and I know the enemy. And the enemy is tyranny. The enemy is tyranny. Go look it up. Go look up what tyranny means, and you're going to see the opposite of that is liberty, is freedom. Amen. Our Constitution gives us three things. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the first thing is life. And the ability to be able to practice and be whatever you want to be, right? So I want you to do this because I want to change it up here in a little bit. So jump into COVID, right? Because COVID is a function of tyranny. It's not a function of health. It's not a function of health. I mean, you had those beautiful children up here today with their moms talking about what they were doing. It had nothing to do with health. It had everything to do with control. So on the count of three, ask me if I've gotten the vaccine. 1, 2, 3.
Have you gotten the vaccine?
It's none of your damn business.
That's right.
Did you get